Well, welcome to the very first podcast of Debating is for Life. My very first guest today, Adnan R. We've been friends for life. I want to say for life, right? I don't think I have many older friends than you.
I
I'm
mean,
thrilled to have you as my first guest. So, Adi, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
okay. I'm a independent journalist, writer, photographer, do some video. I've been writing for MacLean's magazine for about 20 years as a contributing editor. I've been living in Turkey for most of that time, although moving here and there every once in a while in Istanbul. Currently, I'm in Istanbul. I cover mostly conflict zones, although lately I've been doing a lot more human interest and migration stories, primarily focusing on and the intersection between migration and environmental issues is sort of my main beat right now. But also, the earthquake in Turkey, writing about that. So anything that I think is important, I'll write about.
Well, have
That's
you
yeah.
been affected by the earthquake in Turkey? That's been all over the news lately in northern Syria. Has
Mm.
that impacted your life in any way living in Turkey?
Not directly, because in Istanbul the earthquake didn't affect the city here, but I mean, obviously there's been ripple effects in terms of friends going off to the disaster zone, colleagues of mine going there, myself thinking about going there, whether I should or not. Obviously, there's a lot of
There's been
tension.
like a huge death toll, and
Mm,
what kind of effect does that have on the society as a whole? Like living in Turkey, when people know that close to 40,000 people have died in a very short
mhm,
order,
mhm, mhm.
what does that do to the culture? Like, have you noticed any changes?
Well, I mean, the threat of earthquakes been sort of Damocles on Turkey for like forever, essentially. I mean, it's a big earthquake zone. So they had their last big one in 1999. 17,000 people, over 17,000 people died. So this one's significantly bigger. I mean, it's everybody was expecting it, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of anger because there isn't the death toll and the destruction is just so massive that people are now questioning what the government did over the last 20 years. It had promised to um, make Turkey at least more resilient, Turkey's infrastructure more resilient to earthquakes when that 1999 earthquake happened, or after that. This is how the governing party right now came into power um, after that earthquake, because that earthquake also caused an economic crisis, and then it led into an election in 2001 that the current government sort of leveraged that economic crisis to
Right.
win
Well,
power, and then
are the building codes up to standard for something like this? Like, or is that part of the problem that the buildings were not properly built to withstand
yeah.
earthquakes?
Yeah, I mean that's the debate right now. I think there's a lot of evidence, and I've been speaking to members of the Chamber of Architects and Engineers, and talking to some civil engineers, and the feeling right now is based on the initial. Of course, there needs to be more investigation. Obviously, we need more data, we need more investigation, but the initial signs are that a lot of these buildings collapsed because of poor building standards and
Uh,
also poor materials. There's already
yeah.
been 113 or so arrests made of contractors and building owners of construction companies
Yeah, and I
of some
wonder
of
how
these
far up the
collapses.
chain those arrests are going to go, or there are those people
Yeah.
just going to be
Well,
scapegoated. In
well, I
any
mean,
case,
this,
let's
yeah,
move
I mean,
along.
that's a,
Let's move
I mean,
along.
that's an interesting point, and that's, yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll see where it goes, but there's a lot of politics involved in this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our heart goes out from here in Canada to everybody in Turkey and Syria. It's just gut wrenching to watch the images coming from that part of the world. And
Hmm.
I know in Syria they're also, that area has been war ravaged, and now this is just an extra layer of devastation on top of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just terrible. But in any case, thank you for being my very first guest.